but no one at Mission Control wants to give the final go for launch.
All of us were extremely apprehensive. We had never had a human being on the top side of a rocket.
It's Alan Shepard who decides they've waited long enough.
Finally, he says, let's light this candle. Let's go.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
He had one single-line prayer that he said just before ignition.
1.
Don't mess this up. But he didn't say mess.
Ignition.
All right, lift off and the clock has started.
It was sort of like the first hit in a football game.
When that Mercury redstone rose above the tree line, cars stopped. People got out, hit their knees, and literally prayed.
We saw that guy go, and we could track him for about the first 20 seconds as he went up through powered flight and then back down at the consoles and look at the data and listen to the calls.
Pressure is holding at 5.5. Cabin holding at 5.5.
He is disappearing. Here's a man going over 100 miles into space.
Cabin 5.5.
He looks so lonely up there.
On television.
T-minus 15 minutes. Mark.
When it came time to go,
10 counting.
the whole world was with me.
All recorders too fast. T-minus 18 seconds and counting.
I was the communicator for the countdown. I wanted to say something like bon voyage, buddy, have a good time, and also enlist the aid of our maker in protecting him.
Godspeed, John Glenn. 10.
I was expecting somebody to say a launch hold of some kind.
3, 2, 1, 0.
And I couldn't believe it.
Roger, the clock is operating. We're underway. You're loud and clear.
And the excitement of John Glenn going into orbit. This was the adventure of the 20th century.
The moment when the final Atlas engine will shut down, when Friendship 7 should separate from the booster rocket and begin orbital flight.
7, Cape is go. We're standing by for you. Roger, Cape is go and I am go. Our capsule is in good shape.
After all the dire predictions of what might happen and how you might feel in space in zero-G, and there wasn't any problem at all.
Five months later, Wally Schirra flies 6 orbits. Then Gordo Cooper circles the Earth 22 times over a day and a half.
Hello, this is astronaut Gordon Cooper speaking from Faith 7.
Live.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
You think about your procedures that you're going to run. Frightened? Never thought about it.
2, 1. Ignition.
It was a pretty good launch. It was a Titan launch, so, you know, it had quite a few Gs going into orbit. Piece of cake.
The launch time is a very critical time. Everybody's keyed up. Everybody's got to do a good job. The hardware's got to work. Walking out was, my first thought was, my God, this is just like I saw on television. But you got your mind on other things. I was probably going over the launch things I had to do, and you're not thinking about girls and, and comic strips. It's the business.
We have a roll program initiated.
8.5 Gs, you're really being pushed into the seat, and all of a sudden, it stops. You're floating. It's a lot of fun.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
Engine start. We have a liftoff.
Gemini 7 blasts off first.
We're on our way, Frank. Okay, VC, stand by for staging. Roger, staging.
Launched again.
Gemini 6, you are go.
You hear the man. Go. Go. 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engine start. We've got a real liftoff. The clock is running. Roll complete. Roger, roll. Cabin pressure sealed at 5.5. 50 seconds.
Okay, their orbit is 87 by 140.
The first crew to attempt it are Dave Scott and Commander Neil Armstrong.
Rendezvous, docking, and operating combined spacecraft was a key element of the Apollo strategy. We want to prove that ability on Gemini 8.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff.
Armstrong will rendezvous, then dock their capsule with an unmanned Agena target vehicle.
This is only our second walk in space, and we know very little about what we're going to encounter. This is a dangerous mission.
Gene Cernan has a lot of work to do on NASA's most ambitious spacewalk.
Gemini 9 was my first flight.
NASA has one more chance to get it right. Aldrin's first mission will be Gemini's last.
A lot of things happen on Apollo 8 that were, unplanned.
Since this was the first flight on the Saturn V, first flight to the moon, first of a lot of things, it was a pretty risky flight.
Our primary mission was to go to the moon, circle it 10 times, and come home alive.
Borman, Lovell, and Anders will fly the most powerful rocket ever, the Saturn V. At 363 feet, it's the size of a 35-story office building and carries 1 million gallons of rocket fuel. It's been flown only twice, and never with men sitting on top. But no other rocket can launch a manned spaceship beyond the bounds of Earth orbit.
The night before the launch, Saturn V was out there with floodlights on it, and somebody had the bad taste of telling it was like a 2-kiloton nuclear explosion if it blew up, so we just hoped it wouldn't blow up.
This is Apollo Saturn launch control at 2 hours, 20 minutes and counting. Countdown still going very satisfactory at this time. We expect that astronauts Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders will be coming out in a matter of a few minutes. We appear to have a beautiful morning here for a flight to the moon, and we're also synchronizing the clocks in the spacecraft with the Mission Control Center in Houston.
I remember going into Mission Control, the sound, the smell, the stale pizza and the old cookies and the burnt coffee. You can pick up the hum of the room. Very shortly, we're going to launch this mission.
We were driven down to the Saturn V. We were the only people, except for a couple nervous people, that were near the vehicle. It had on board around 5 million pounds of high explosives. And of course, there's an old joke about how does it feel to sit on top of a vehicle that was built by the lowest bidder.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control, T-minus 16 minutes and counting.
I had decided that there was about a 1/3 chance that the flight would be totally successful. Then I thought there was a 1/3 chance that we wouldn't make it back.
The mission was more important than anybody. It was more important than our lives, than our families. That's what we were there for. We were killed more times in simulation than you can shake a stick at.
T-minus 90 seconds and counting.
It was very, very cold. We sat in there and shivered and froze.
50 seconds and counting. We have the power transfer. We're now on the flight batteries within the launch vehicle. 45 seconds.
You could see up a little bit. We were flat on our backs. And I recall that circling over the spacecraft were a couple of seagulls, and I've often wondered what happened to those seagulls. They must have been the most surprised birds in the world when that thing lit up.
T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The clock is running.
The sideways shaking was unbelievable. The vibration was so intense you couldn't see the instrument panel.
We're clear to tower.
I thought we'd had it during the launch. I was hoping that Frank Borman didn't have his hand on the abort controller. He said he took his hand off and he'd rather die than make a false abort.
1 minute after liftoff, the Saturn V is already supersonic.
Well, the Saturn V is still the most powerful machine that man has ever devised. 20 tons of fuel a second, 7.5 million pounds of thrust. I think we were all surprised at how strong that thing was. It had had 2 or 3 iffy missions before ours, but it was a piece of cake. It just worked beautifully. Unbelievable.
5 engines in the first stage blast the Saturn V to 7 times the speed of sound.
The second stage cut in. Big bang.
At 40 miles high, it's still accelerating.
When you staged, you were thrown forward in the belts and then backward in the belts.
And I thought I was being catapulted through the instrument panel.
And the thrust looks good. All engines, all sources show that the stage is burning perfectly.